Hey everyone, so this week we are starting Beowulf. I think I've told pretty much all of my classes, but this is my favorite story that we read all year. I think you guys are really going to like it too. I would suggest as we're reading through, get that Microsoft form open. So from Blackboard, it's going to be the file right below each of the readings. And just answer these questions as we're reading. I think that's going to be the easiest way. So this is the translation of Beowulf that is also in the textbooks. But I found a PDF version for us so you can read along with me as I read. So this section opens during an evening of celebration. It's a big party at Harrod, which is the mead hall. So remember we talked about the mead halls in class of the Danish king Hrothgar. So that's how you pronounce that name. So it's Hrothgar's mead hall, which is just a big gathering place for all of the warriors, for him and all of his men to have a big celebration. So outside in the darkness lurks the monster Grendel, a murderous creature who poses a great danger to the people inside the banquet hall. Really quickly, I want to give you an idea of what Grendel looks like. We've seen Grendel, pictures of Grendel from movies, all different representations, but you see a huge, giant, often very scary looking monster. Okay, so we're going to start off. And this part is called the Wrath of Grendel. So it starts, a powerful monster living down in the darkness growled in pain, impatient, as day after day the music rang loud in the hall, the harp's rejoicing call, and poets' clear songs sung of the ancient beginnings of us all, recalling the almighty making of the earth, shaping these beautiful plains marked off by oceans, then proudly setting the sun and moon to glow across the land and light it. The corners of the earth were made lovely with trees and leaves made quick with life, with each of the nations who now move on its face. And then, as now, warriors sang of their pleasure. So Hrothgar's men lived happy in his hall, till the monster stirred, that demon, that fiend, Grendel, who haunted the moors, the wild marshes, and made his home in a hell, not hell, but earth. He was spawned in that slime, conceived by a pair of those monsters born of Cain, murderous creatures banished by God, punished forever for the crime of Abel's death. The Almighty drove these demons out, and their exile was bitter. Shut away from men, they split into 1,000 forms of evil, spirits and fiends, goblins, monsters, giants, a brood forever opposing the Lord's will, and again defeated. Okay, so that's a lot to take in. Basically, it's saying that in the hall, all the poets were there. They're singing the songs, telling the stories. Remember, we talked about that, how the poets would go around and sing their songs as a version of telling stories. And it's bothering Grendel. So they're saying that day after day, the music loud in the hall just started bothering him. And it says that he lives in a lair. So he lives down deep. There's like all this slime. So he's made his home. They even describe it as a hell, nothing like earth. So he lives in this lair. And the music, he just keeps hearing it, and it's driving him insane. And the other thing to note here is that they're saying basically he was born from all these monsters. So all these different terrible creatures would have families and split off and so on and down the line. It describes it here in line 26. Spirits, fiends, goblins, monsters, giants. So he was a part of this group of really monsters and giants. So, yeah, basically that's what's going on right now, just kind of describing the hall, describing Grendel. All right, so then when the darkness had dropped, Grendel went up to Harrod, wondering what the warriors would do in that hall when their drinking was done. He found them sprawled in sleep, suspecting nothing, their dreams undisturbed. The monster's thoughts were as quick as his greed or his claws. He slipped through the door there in the silence and snatched up 30 men, smashed them, unknowing in their beds, and ran out with their bodies, the blood dripping behind him, back to his lair, delighted with his night's slaughter. So Grendel decides he has had enough of the music. He's sick of the partying, sick of all the noise, so he sneaks in when they're all sleeping to see what they're doing, and he decides to kill them, basically. So he ends up going in, he smashes them, he snatches up 30 men and takes all their bodies back to his lair. So yeah, he goes in the first night and he kills 30 men. So here at line 41, we continue. So at daybreak, with the sun's first light, they saw how well he had worked, and in that gray morning broke their long feasts with tears and laments for the dead. Hrothgar, their lord, sat joyless in Harrod, a mighty prince mourning the fate of his lost friends and companions. knowing by its track that some demon had torn his followers apart. He wept, fearing the beginning might not be the end. And that night Grendel came again, so set on murder that no crime could ever be enough. No savage assault quench his lust for evil. Then each warrior tried to escape him, searched for rest in different beds as far from Herod as they could find, seeing how Grendel hunted when they slept. Distance was safety. The only survivors were those who fled him. Hate had triumphed. So it says that Grendel came back night after night after night, and he kept coming back, and he was attacking the men. He was taking as many men as he could back with him. And it says basically that the only way to get away from Grendel was to run away. So people were running and they were hiding, staying in beds as far from Herod, which remember is the mead hall, as they could. So Hrothgar the king is upset because he built this great hall for all of his men, and now no one wants to stay here because they're worried that this terrible monster's going to come up and hurt them or kill them while they're sleeping. So it continues here at line 59. So Grendel ruled, fought with the righteous, one against many, and won. So Herod stood empty, stayed deserted for years. 12 winters of grief for Hrothgar, king of the Danes. Sorrow heaped at his door by hell-forged hands. His misery leaped the seas and was told and sung in all men's ears, how Grendel's hatred began, how the monster relished his savage war on the Danes, keeping the bloody feud alive, seeking no peace, offering no truce, accepting no settlement, no price in gold or land, and paying the living for one crime only with another. No one waited for reparation from his plundering claws. That shadow of death hunted in the darkness, stalked Hrothgar's warriors, old and young, lying in waiting, hidden in mist, invisibly following them from the edge of marsh, always there, unseen. So it says for 12 winters, there were 12 winters of grief for Hrothgar. So basically that means there were 12 years that night after night this monster came back, which is really hard to imagine. But of course, everyone was afraid of the creature. I don't even know how there were that many people to continue coming back for 12 years, but people were afraid of the creature. And so there were no more parties. Basically, they just shut everything down and decided that they weren't going to have any more parties, that they were just not going to go to the mead hall anymore. So here, line 79. So mankind's enemy continued his crime, killing as often as he could, coming alone, bloodthirsty, and horrible. Though he lived in Herod, when the night hit him, he never dared to touch King Hrothgar's glorious throne, protected by God, God whose love Grendel could not know. But Hrothgar's heart was bent. The best and most noble of his council debated remedies, sat in secret sessions talking of terror, and wondering what the bravest warriors could do. And sometimes they sacrificed to the old stone gods, made heathen vows, hoping for hell's support, the devil's guidance in driving their affliction off. That was their way, and their heathen's only hope. Hell always in their hearts, knowing neither God nor his passing as he walks through our world, the Lord of heaven and earth. Their ears could not hear his praise, nor know his glory. Let them beware, those who are thrust into danger, clutched at by trouble, yet carry no solace in their hearts, cannot hope to be better. Hail to those who rise to God, drop off their dead bodies, and seek our Father's peace. So basically what happens here is after Grendel had wreaked havoc on Hrothgar and his mead hall for 12 years, they decide that they have to do something. So the king has lived this long because it says that that basically Grendel would come back night after night, but he never dared to touch the king's throne. And the reason is because it was said to be protected by God. Remember, we talked about how there were two religions at the time, paganism and then also Christianity. So this goes into that Christianity. So the throne being protected by God, preventing Grendel from touching it, would be part of the Christian beliefs here. And then a little bit further down, it says that the council debated remedies. They tried everything. So it says that some of the things that they tried to do were make sacrifices to the old stone gods. So that would be those pagan beliefs. Here, just less than 10 lines later. So they decided to make sacrifices to the old stone gods. They made heathen vows, and they basically asked for the devil's help in getting rid of the monster. So it sounds like they really tried everything from Christianity to the paganism, anything they could do to get rid of this creature, and were not able to get rid of him. So once you've finished reading this, if you need to go back and read it, I've posted the PDF for you on Blackboard as well. You can do that Make sure that you are answering the questions that go along with each of these sessions. And then when you're done with the readings, you can take the quiz at the end.